Judith Thompson.
Carrie.
It feels ridiculous doing this, given the number of conversations that you and I have had over the last 9 years?
9 years.
9 years.
Yeah.
But we're going to do this.
We're going to do
We're
it.
going to be uber pro.
Wonderful.
And honestly, it's a delight always to talk about Harold's work.
Yeah.
But we're going to have to start at the beginning.
Okay.
Because you are really the only person that knows this story as intimately as you do, not only as Harold Feinstein's wife, but as the director of the archive.
Yeah.
And so let's do it. Can we talk about, first of all, how did you and Harold meet?
Okay. Well, I was living in New York. He was, of course, born in New York and grew up in New York. And we met at a party. I ran a nonprofit at the time, and the man who was the chair of my board had a birthday party. And he happened to be a collector of Harolds. And so I think this was 1986, 87. So there we were at this party, and I happened to be with another guy. And he was sort of on hiatus from a relationship that he was in. And we started talking astrology because he also, on the side, was an astrologer and used to read charts. And I knew something about astrology. So he asked me for my birth data, when were you born, etc. So we had this conversation, and that was that. He likes to tell the story, or see, he's still here, liked to tell the story that he asked me to give him my phone number. And I said, well, you'll have to ask that guy. Now, that's totally made up because I would never have said that. That's not my MO. But anyway, this was how he would tell the story. And he went home and he did the little computerized chart, looked at it and fantasized and said, God, that was such a great woman, really well. And it was years later that, meanwhile, I broke up with the guy, but maybe 2 years later, right after I had broken up with the guy, that man went to have an astrological reading with Harold and called me in the middle of it. I was writing a funding proposal in a little retreat place. And he said, Judith, give me your birth data. I said, why? He said, because I'm sitting here having this astrological conversation with this guy, Harold Feinstein. And I want to get your data. And his hope, his name was Paul, his hope was that Harold was going to look at the two charts together and say, oh yeah, you guys belong together. You really do. Well, gave him the information. Harold took in the information, and Harold was kind of like, oh, this sounds really familiar to me. Did the chart, kind of knew who it was, even though it was several years later. And when Paul had finished the reading, he called me back again on the phone. He said, this guy is great. You got to go to him for a reading and I'll pay for it. And I did go for a reading, and then he couldn't complete the reading. I had to go back a second time. Then we had coffee, and on it went. So that was 1987.
Did you know the work? Did you see his work?
No.
So you didn't fall in love with the work first and then Harold?
No, I fell in love with Harold. Because I don't come from the art world, I did international peace work and such. And as soon as I got to know the work, then, that opened up an entire dimension to Harold that I didn't know, except to say that if you knew Harold and didn't know his work, so much of who he was in his persona and his way of being and what he cared about really was what you see in his work. So it all lined up pretty easily.